Hello and welcome to my channel. Today's video we are going to be making this cute little mini Jason. His body is all one piece, and then we'll be making the little mask separately and then have to embroider on the little arms and legs and the little straps that attach his mask on. For this video I will be using a number 4 medium weight yarn, a 4.25 millimeter hook, and 10 millimeter safety eyes. This is a crochet along, so I will be doing every stitch with you, and I am also providing a drop down at the top of the screen with the pattern instructions for the first 30 seconds of every row for you to follow along with. And if you enjoy this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you'll also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. Okay, I think that's everything. So grab your yarn and let's get started. All right, we're going to start by making the mask, and we're going to be making a chain. You can start your chain any way you prefer. I like to still do my knot with the loop on the end, so I fold my yarn over in half, grab that loop, bring it down, around, and through to start my knot, and then I'm going to pinch that loop, and I'm just going to slide this knot up so that my loop is just a little bit bigger than my hook. Insert my hook, and we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for row 1, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the second chain from the hook, so not the loop that's on your hook. This is your first chain, this is your second chain. So 1 single crochet in the end, 1 single crochet in the middle, and 3 single crochets in the last stitch, and we're going to pivot our work so we end up on the back side. So 1, turn a little bit, 2, and now turn it so you're on the back side of that chain, 3. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the middle, and we're going to do 2 single crochets in that last stitch, so an increase. 1 and 2 in the same stitch. Now it's going to look like this. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And we're just going to pivot back so we're at the top of our work now. And we're just going to go in that next stitch right there, row 2. We're going to start with 1 increase. So that's 1 and 2 in the same stitch. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the middle. And now we're going to do 3 increases around the end. So 1 increase, and turn as you go. 2 increases, and 3 increases, and now we're on the back side or the bottom. And we're going to do 1 single crochet in the middle, and now we're going to do 2 increases on this end. So 1 increase, 2 increases. Now it should look like this. Row 3, we're back to working on the top side again. We're going to start on this end doing 1 single crochet and 1 increase. So 1 single crochet, 1 increase. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the middle. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase 3 times around this other end. So single crochet, increase, that's once, and we're turning as we go, single crochet, increase, that's 2 times, single crochet, increase, that's 3 times. We're going to do 1 single crochet in the middle, and now we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase, 2 times around the other end. So 1 single crochet, 1 increase, that's once, 1 single crochet, 1 increase, that's twice. So it's going to look like this now. And then we're just going to tie off in the next stitch to finish off that round. Leave yourself a little bit of a tail. I am going to be attaching this with my eyes, but my eye posts are long enough to go through 2 layers. So just in case you have shorter backs on your eye posts, leave these tails, and then you can use that to just stitch it on if you have to. Alright, let's take our stitch marker out, and we're also going to do our little details right now too. So grab your red and your black, and maybe get your eyes out too, because I think I use them to kind of figure out where everything went. Alright, let's grab your darning needle and put this end on, because we're also going to close the little holes that are left in the front. So I'm just taking my finishing tail. I might go around this stitch once or twice just so it's a little more even. That might be enough. Maybe one more time. Just so it's round and not a jagged edge there. Then I'm just going to weave my end in a little bit to get to the middle. So I'm just catching these back bars of my stitches. You don't want to pull this tight because you want your mask to stay in a nice oval shape. And you're just going to grab a couple of stitches on the back side. So I'm going to take this bar on each side of my hole. Just pull that a little bit, and then I'm going to do the same thing around the next one. Just grabbing those 2 back bars. That's good enough for me. If you want to, maybe I will close that hole. So you can also just go the other way, whatever makes you happy. And then we're just going to tie those ends together. And remember, don't cut them until you know if your eyes will fit on, which won't be until we get quite a bit of the body done. Okay, so now you're going to grab your eyes. This is where my tail was. I keep that on this side. And we want to put our eyes kind of in the middle chain row, 2 rows in. So we got 1 row, 2 rows, and then we're right in the middle where we sewed those holes together, and same thing on the other side. 1 row, 2 row, and then right there in the middle. Darn yarn. So right now it looks like this. Then you're going to get your red yarn, and if you have embroidery thread, use that, but I just separate my yarn strands. So usually there's 4, but I've stolen one already. So I'll just take that apart, and I'll just steal one right out of there. All right, so let's thread that on. And we're going to start by finding the center hole between the eyes, just above the top of the eye here, so right there. Leave a little bit of thread for tying, and we're going to come up and over just about above the center of the eye, 1 row down from the outside. And we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to come over to the other side, up and down. And if you look, I just have, so I've got the top of my little mark, 2 holes, and then the top of my mark. And now we're going to go down to the bottom, and we're going to go to the bottom inside of the eye. And we're just going to come out a little bit on an angle, following the stitches. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Down a bit, I think. I should have 2 holes in between the bottom as well. And then over. Okay, yeah, I got 2 holes there. If they're a little off, you can always pull and make this one shorter by pulling on this end. And then once you're happy with it, we'll give them a tie in the back. Just tie them loosely, and then once your knot stops sliding, you have it tight enough. You're going to give those a cut. Careful not to cut your white ends from your mask. And we're going to grab our black and do the same thing. I've already stolen 2 out of here, so I just got 2 ends of my yarn together. Alright, so let's thread that on. And I'm going to start at the top, right here on the far side. And I'm going to be going this way. So pull most of your yarn through. And I'm just going to go up underneath the stitches of the V. Do that in the next hole over here. And I'm just going to do that all the way around. So my next one I'm going to put between my eye and my mark here. I can. And we're going to do 3 here. 1 at the top of the eye, 1 kind of at the middle of the eye. And then 1 at the bottom of the eye. And don't pull these too tight, or they'll kind of disappear. Now we're going to do 2 right here in these 2 stitches. And then we're just going to reverse as we go, or not reverse, but do what we did, but in backwards. So we need 1 on an angle under the eye. We need 1 kind of even with the eye. And then we need 1 on an angle above the eye. And I'll just give you a quick little look if you need to pause the video right here. And then you're just going to tie those ends. Again, you want to do that loosely so you can tie it tight enough that your knot doesn't slide. And then we're just going to let that chill over here for a bit. We start on the top of the head. All right, now we're going to start at the top of the head, and you can begin your rounds any way you prefer as long as you have the same amount of stitches in row 1. I'll be doing a knot with a loop on the end. Insert your hook. Grab your yarn. Chain 1, and remember that does not count as a stitch. That just attaches our yarn to our loop. And for row 1, going over top of the tail, you're going to do 8 single crochets into the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then pull that tail if you need to close that hole. Grab a stitch marker if you're using one. And for row 2, we are going to do 8 increases, so that's 2 single crochets in every stitch all the way around for a total of 16. So increase 1 and 2 in the same stitch. Increase again, 3 and 4. Increase 5 and 6. Increase 7 and 8. Increase 9 and 10. Increase 11 and 12. Increase 13 and 14. And our last increase 15 and 16. Row 3, we are going to do 1 single crochet, 1 increase. Repeat that all the way around for a total of 24. 1 single crochet for 1, 1 increase for 2 and 3, and then repeat that around. 4, increase, 5 and 6, 7, increase, 8 and 9, 10, increase, 11 and 12, 13, increase, 14 and 15, 16, increase, 17 and 18, 19, increase, 20 and 21, 22, and our last increase, 23 and 24. Row 4, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 5, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 6, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 7, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 8, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and then in our last stitch, our 24th stitch, we're going to go in, grab our yarn, pull up, leaving those 2 loops on the hook because we're going to change color now. So I'm going to cut my old color, and you're going to grab your t-shirt color, and you're just going to tie that new color to the old color nice and tight, as close to the hook as you can get it, 2 or 3 times. you're going to grab that new color and bring it through those 2 loops of your last stitch of the previous row to finish that off. Row 9, we're going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 10, we are going to do 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and then again on our 24th stitch we're going to change colors. So go in, grab your yarn, pull up, leaving those 2 loops on the hook. We're going to cut our old color, grab our pant color, and then we're just going to tie our new color to our old color nice and tight, as close to the hook as you can get it, 2 or 3 times. And then you're just going to pull that new color through the last 2 loops on your hook to finish off that last stitch of the previous row. Row 11, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Row 12, 24 single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, we're going to take our hook out now because we're going to add the little face mask. So grab your eyes if you don't have them already. And we want to ideally have it centered. So we're just going to find our back, center that with our stitch marker or the little divot where your color changes. Flip it over. And we want our eyes to kind of go in between rows 5 and 6. So if you want, you can just count down and mark those off. So that first round we made, our starting loop is row 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right here in between rows 5 and 6. And I'm just going to stick my needle there in case I need to look and check. Then grab your mask. Make sure it's not upside down because I just put mine upside down and had to take it off. Oh yeah, so flip it over. That's a good idea. So put our first one into that row 5 and 6. I'm just going to put that eye on first. Grab my back, and I do know that mine will go on. So if yours don't, I'll show you what you're going to do in a half a second here. And then just make sure your other one is in the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 between rows 5 and 6. It doesn't really matter where it goes, just kind of wherever it sits naturally. And then we'll put the back on that one. Okay. Well, that's what it should look like now. Now, if your eyes, you couldn't get your backs on, you're just going to take one of your threads, tack it around, either just do a couple stitches here, or you could go all the way around if you want to have it nice and sturdy, but we will be putting straps on that will hold this back. It's going to look a little funny to begin with. So I can get rid of my strings now. And now let's add a little bit of stuffing. So what we want to do is kind of have it about 2/3 full. We want it stuffed enough that we don't have to put a lot in at the end, but we also don't want our, when we're going around in our next rows, we don't want to be catching our stuffing and have it in our way. So that's probably a lot. Let's get our hook back in. And for the next row, we're going to be going in the back loops. So if you've never done that before, instead of going under your stitch, under both the V's, we're going to be coming down in between the V's and just catching those back loops and leaving these front loops out, and then that'll make our bottom kind of go flat. I think I have too much stuffing in here too. Take some of that out. And for row 13, in the back loops, we're going to do 1 single crochet, 1 decrease, repeat that all the way around for a total of 16. So in the back loop, 1 single crochet, 1 decrease for 2, single crochet for 3, decrease for 4, single crochet for 5, decrease for 6, 7, decrease for 8, 9, decrease for 10, 11, decrease for 12, 13, decrease for 14, 15, and our last decrease for 16. I'm just going to add that stuffing I took out now quickly. Row 14, we are going to do 8 decreases. So 1 decrease, 2 decreases, 3 decreases, 4 decreases, 5 decreases, 6 decreases, 7 decreases, 8 decreases. Then you're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch, tie that off, but leave yourself quite a long tail in case you want that in the future for a little hanger or something at the top. You can always cut it later. Take our stitch marker out and let's finish filling him up with stuffing. And all you're going to do is kind of make sure his body's full, and then once you feel like it's full, you're going to kind of stick your fingers to the sides into these corners so that his bottom stays flat. So you're just kind of feeling wherever there's an empty pocket with no stuffing, you'll put a little bit in and kind of spin them around as you go. I think we're getting close here. Maybe just a little bit more on that side. And if you find he's starting to round up on the bottom, then you know you have enough in there. So you want him to be fairly flat up on top. And just as a reminder, don't close him up yet, because that's where we're going to be putting all of our ends through, so we don't have to tie and hide on the inside. So first of all, we're going to do the hands. So thread on whatever color you use for the head. And we're just going to come up through the bottom into that first, under that first row of green, kind of centered under the eye. So if you see, I'm kind of right in the middle of where the eye is. And we're going to go out to the back side. And we're going to wrap around this one stitch 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and then on our 4th one, we're going to do the same thing on the other side, going under that first row of green and centered kind of under the middle of the eye. And then that way towards the outside of his body, and then again 4 times around that stitch. 1, 2, 3, and then on our 4th one, we're going to come out the bottom and then just give that a tie. that off. And then you're going to grab a little bit of black for the feet. Thread that on. We're going to come up the bottom, and we want to come kind of centered with the arm, just under that first, or above that first front loop. I think I can go one more, yeah. So I'm just on top, in the hole above those front loop lines, pretty much in the center of where our hand is. Leave some string for tying. And again, we're just going to wrap that around 4 times, but this time we're going to come in towards the center. 1, 2, 3, and then on our 4th one, we're going to go down over to the other side, centered between under the hand and just above that front row loop. And again, 4 times towards the center. 1, 2, 3, and then on our 4th one, come down and out so you can tie. Give those a cut. And then you're going to grab yourself a fair-sized chunk of brown to do the straps. Thread that on. And we're going to find our back center where we want our straps to meet. So I want mine to be even with my eye, so I'm just going to find where the center of my eye is and then follow that row to the back in about the center. And I'm just going to put a pin there just so I know where I'm always coming back to. And we're going to insert our yarn a couple of rows down so we can tie it. And we're going to go all the way up to that same row, just under or beside the mask. Come out, bring most of your yarn through, leave some for tying. And then we're going to grab this little back bar. So we don't want to grab the V's of the stitch, but behind there, on the back side, there's going to be a little bar just under the V. I'm going to grab that, and we're going to bring it around. Probably got to hold it. Now we're going to come in where our pin was in the center, and we're going to do that on the other side. So right just under or beside where our mask ends. Pull that so it's snug. We'll go under the bar on this side. Pull that back. We're going to go back to this center stitch and in. And this time we're going to come up the front center. So if you can kind of come up right between your 2 stitches there. And then catch that middle bar. Sometimes it's tricky. I should have come up first maybe. So I got that middle bar. Pull your yarn through so you're making sure this side is snug now. Then you're going to come straight down. You don't need that pin no more. Into that center hole and out where we started to tie. So it should look like this now. Just before you tie them, make sure they're all nice and snug. And then we'll hide those ends out the bottom. So I'm just going to use my needle to pull it back out before I tie. And we'll give those a cut. And then let's close the bottom up now, but before we thread our yarn on, I'm just going to show you a little trick. If you don't want to see these little ends here, doesn't matter so much on a dark color, but if you had like a white bottom, I'm just going to tuck that in over top, and then you can't see any of those ends anymore. And let's thread on our yarn. So this is our ending tail yarn. And you're just going to weave in and out on those top loops of our last stitch, rows of stitches. Last one. Then you're going to give that a pull. And I'm just going to tie a knot in the next stitch. And then put our needle through the center and then up through the top center. And there we go. There's our little Jason. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and click that bell. Not only does that help me out, but you'll also be notified every time I load a new video, as well as any likes, shares, and comments are always appreciated. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who has been so kind to have hit the thanks button and sent me such generous donations. You will now be listed at the end of all my next videos as my super thanks friends. Take care, be safe, and happy crocheting.